Here's a Jomise D530 dual dashcam. And first off, we'll talk about size. This dashcam is roughly about 3.5 inches wide and about 2 inches tall. So it's a nice size, not too large, not too small. Now the body has a nice flat black finish with a little bit of a silver accent here and around the lens. Looks pretty classy in my opinion. The camera is equipped with a 4K imaging sensor that is made by Sony. That is the 415 IMX sensor, and that sensor has been quite popular in the recent 4K dashcams that we have seen come to the market because it captures quite a lot of detail during the day, but also a lot of detail at night. So that's a good sensor. Turning the camera around, we have a 3-inch wide display, and this display is a good size, but it's not a touchscreen, so there won't be any fingerprints on this dash cam. All of our interaction is gonna be with the buttons on the side. We have a couple of buttons here. This one can go up and down, and we have a single button on the left hand side, which is the power button. Now this little hole right here is for us to reset the camera if we needed to, and finally a memory card slot. This camera supports memory cards all the way up to 128 gigabytes in size. Now, what else do you get when you purchase this camera? You get a power adapter with a mini USB connector on this side and a cord length which is about 12 feet in length. So quite a bit of length in there for us to be able to reach the plug in our car. We also get a waterproof camera, which means that this rear camera can be installed outside the car, typically by the license plate of the car, or it could be installed inside of the car. Now the camera does have a little bracket that allows us to aim it up and down to get the best possible view. And to mount the camera to the car, we have two options. We can mount it with the included double-sided adhesive tape, or we can use these screws and permanently mount this to our car. Now the cord length here is about 23 feet in length, so also more than sufficient length for us to route this to the back of our car. Finally, you get a mount. This mount is pretty clever, and I wish this is something that more dashcam manufacturers would do, which is integrating the cables that come out of the dashcam into the mount. So normally you have a couple of cables coming out here, the GPS antenna cable, the rear camera cable, the power cable. So you have 3, maybe 4 cables coming out here, and it may look unsightly. This thing right here makes the installation look very clean and very professional. This pushes in here, locks in place, and now there are all the wires basically are hidden. The wire is actually gonna be inputted in here. So we're gonna take that wire, we're gonna plug it in here, and we're gonna hide it into the trim of our car, which is gonna give this dashcam a very clean installation, OEM look installation. Now the mount is gonna be attached to the windshield with this double-sided adhesive tape. I'm basically gonna peel this and stick it to my windshield. The mount can also be slightly pivoted up and down, left to right, for further adjustment of where I want the camera to be pointed at. You'll also notice that I did not show a GPS antenna, and that is because the GPS antenna is built in inside of this dashcam. Again, that's a great feature because some dashcams have an external GPS antenna, and that means I have to route an extra wire and then find a place to put the GPS antenna. Alright, now let's look how this looks mounted in the car. So here's the Jomise D530 dashcam installed. I'm going to turn it on manually, but normally the dashcam will come on automatically. And I like to do that so we can see how fast it boots up, which is always an indicator of not only that you got good processing power in there, but that you got a software that operates fairly good. By default, you can see that we can see the front view and the rear view, but we can change that. If I click right here down, I can switch to back view and the front view in a small corner over here. If I click it again, I can see the front view only. Or if I click it again, the rear view only. The rear view only I think is helpful if you're looking for a parking reverse type of guide camera. The screen is sufficiently large where you can use it like that, but it's not overly large where it's gonna get in your way. Now I'm going to stop the recording here, and we're going to go to the menu by clicking the top button here. As you can see, the first option that we have here is the resolution. If I go inside of that setting, we can see that we can change a couple of the settings for resolution. Now, by default, this camera will record in 4K if you're only using the front camera. If you decide to use the front and rear camera, it will still do a pretty high resolution. It will do what we know as 2K resolution, and the rear will be 1080p. So that's pretty good quality, but you can decrease it. Now, why would you want to decrease the quality? Well, if you were trying to fit more inside of your SD card. But I always leave at the maximum 2K plus 1080. I'm going to click OK on here. Now you can also change the loop recording time. This is again how big are the chunks that the videos are recorded in. Now, WDR is an option that I will definitely recommend turning on here. And basically what that does, it enables something like HDR, which is high dynamic range, or wide dynamic range in this case. And that allows the camera to capture in settings where it might be very bright outside and you might not see some detail in the dark shadows. It enables that for you to see in the dark when it's really bright outside, and vice versa. It helps also at night, I feel. Now let's go to the next one, the G sensor. The G sensor option, I always like to have that in low, change that to low, and that is the sensitivity of when the camera is going to trigger and detect that a car crash has taken place and lock the video permanently. If you have it too high, then you might accidentally be triggering the locking of videos every time you go over a speed bump. So I think low is a good setting where it's really only going to record if you happen to be in a car crash. Now, parking guard is another feature I know a lot of you guys like, which is, can I leave my car parked for an extended period of time and the car monitor? Yes, the camera can do it. However, you are required to hardwire it. I could turn the option on, but if I don't hardwire the dashcam is not going to get power when the car is off. So I'll put a link to the hardwire kit on the description below. The GPS info just is an option if you want to enable or disable the GPS coordinates to be shown on the video. I like to have that on. And exposure, this is a really good option because it allows us to change it. If we feel like the camera is capturing the video a little bit too dark, we can manually increase exposure and make it capture more. Motion detector is another feature that some dashcams do not have. And if I turn that on, when the car is enabled as parking guard and hardwired, not only will the car record an instance where somebody bumps into your car, it would also record when somebody happens to be passing by your car or nearby your car. So it is detecting both the front and the back, is constantly guarding your car. So if you're hardwiring, I will definitely leave the parking guard on and motion detector on so you can capture as much events as possible. Now you also have the ability to turn off the recording of audio if you wanted to have a private conversation. I always like to have it on because we can always get rid of the audio later. And finally, the date stamp is obviously the date that is shown on the video. That's always should be on. Again, if you have an accident, you want to be able to demonstrate what was the right time and date that accident took place. There's a secondary menu in here where we are able to change a little bit more of the in-depth settings of the dashcam. And I like that the menu is fairly easy because the dashcam is ready to go. As soon as you get this camera, you can install it and you're good to go. But for some of you that like to mess with the advanced functions, here's what you're going to go into. So Wi-Fi, you can turn the Wi-Fi on and off. If you're using the app, you want to have that enabled on. You can manually change the time and adjust the date. LCD backlight, I know some of you guys don't want to drive with the screen at night, potentially blinding you. So you can set almost like a screensaver if you think about it. You can change it so it goes into a dark mode after a minute, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes. I think the brightness on this screen is just right, where it doesn't blind you at night. So I have mine off, which means the screen always stays on. And I always turn off the beep sound. I find it very annoying every time you're clicking a button that it goes beep, 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 beep. So in all the dash cams, that's the first thing that I go into and I turn off. And obviously you're able to change this to a couple languages if you wanted to change it for the location or language of your choice. Time zone. Time zone is very helpful because here you can adjust your time since this time can be set with the GPS. If you tell it where you're at, then the time is automatically set for you. So for example, I'm in California and there's some daylight saving times that happens every once in a while, so I could adjust it by going into the time zone. And speed unit will also be helpful for you that might not be dealing with miles per hour. You got kilometers per hour. Okay. Frequency, this is another one that if there's only one option that you're going to look at in the advanced menu, this should be the one that you should look at. It should be set to 60 Hertz if you're inside of the United States, or 50 Hertz if you're in Europe. So again, 60 for US, 50 for Europe. All right, now that we're back in the front menu, I can stop the recording by clicking the bottom one, or I can turn it on. We know we are recording by the little red indicator. Now, normally by default, the camera will, like I said, capture and lock an event in the case of a car crash. I mean, the camera is always recording, but it's going to lock the video because of the G sensor. However, you can manually trigger that sensor, or you can manually trigger a lock file by clicking on the top. And you can see that there's a lock icon. So we're telling the camera something just happened right now, save this video for eternity. So that's kind of a neat feature on there because, again, it gives you full control of the camera. And you also have an indicator of what's the main setting for the microphone, which is important. You want to know if the audio is being recorded, your resolution. So all the basics that you need at a glance, including this little 3, which means we're recording chunks of video in 3 minutes. And finally, the one in the corner over here, that tells us that we have GPS. Again, it's great that the GPS is built in and it's not a separate module. All right, now let's move on to some actual drive test footage. And that concludes the overview of the Jomise D530 Dashcam. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for future Dashcam or other product videos that you'd like to see, please put them on the comments below. Also, make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you found this review helpful, and make sure you subscribe. I have a lot more car product reviews coming up. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.